Denmark has summoned the U.S. envoy for clarification after a state broadcaster revealed individuals tied to Trump conducting covert operations in Greenland. Israel's military has advised residents of the northern Gaza city to vacate, describing evacuations as inevitable as it pushes ahead with its planned military offensive.
The Guinness Book of World Records turns 70 and unveils several new records up for grabs. Denmark summoned the top US diplomat in the country for talks on Wednesday. It comes after a Danish state broadcaster revealed results of an investigation uncovering foul play on the US part in Greenland, a semi-autonomous Danish territory. The report stated that at least 3 Trump-connected individuals were conducting covert influence operations in the territory in an effort to weaken Copenhagen's ties. Greenland has become the target of US President Donald Trump, who's repeatedly voiced his desire to, quote, take control of the world's largest island. Trump says Washington needs to seize the island to boost its security and eliminate Russian and Chinese maritime threats in the Atlantic. Denmark and Greenland's sovereign government have repeatedly dismissed Trump's remarks, asserting that Greenland is not for sale. The country's leader, Mette Frederiksen, called the move unacceptable and said it underlines Trump's interest in the island.
Jeg har for ganske kort tid siden afsluttet et møde med repræsentanter for senatet i USA sammen med vores gode kollega Vivian Motzfeldt fra naalakkersuisut og sagt meget klart, at det her er uacceptabelt, og det er noget, vi kommer til at give videre meget direkte til vores kolleger i USA, som jo med egentlig ret let kunne afvise, at det her ikke er rigtigt, hvis det er sådan, det forholder sig. Men jeg bliver også nødt til at sige, at det her understreger jo alvoren. Jeg har sagt fra starten af det her forløb, at jeg tror, at præsident Trump han mener det alvorligt, når han siger, at han ønsker, at USA skal overtage Grønland. Og det, I bringer frem i dag, synes jeg understreger den alvor.
Mark Stroh, who heads the US mission in Denmark in an interim capacity, pending the appointment of a permanent ambassador, was summoned for clarification on the allegations.
Israel's military said on Wednesday that the evacuation of Gaza City is inevitable as the country prepares for a military offensive to occupy the city. The IDF's Arabic language spokesperson Avichai Adrai advised residents of the city in the north of the enclave to listen to instructions and vacate the area. Adrai added that Israeli forces had surveyed vast empty areas south of Gaza City to assist the evacuating residents as much as possible. He also noted that the displaced would receive tents to reside in and pledged to set up infrastructure for the distribution of aid and water, adding that those who voluntarily depart the city and not obstruct Israel's imminent offensive would receive, quote, the most generous quantities of humanitarian aid. Aid groups have warned, however, that an expanded military offensive could worsen an already catastrophic humanitarian crisis in Gaza. International groups accuse Israel of manufacturing a humanitarian crisis in the Strip, slamming them for their conduct of war which has spanned 22 months. Most neighborhoods in the territory lie in ruins, its over 2 million residents displaced, multiple times, and hungry. Famine was declared in Gaza on Saturday after months-long calls to action by the UN, as Israel continues to insist on controlling the flow of aid and basic necessities into the enclave. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has recognized the alleged genocide carried out by the Ottoman Empire against Armenians, Greeks, and Assyrians during the First World War. Netanyahu made the remarks in a podcast interview with popular Armenian-born American presenter Patrick Bet-David. Netanyahu said the Knesset passed a resolution acknowledging the alleged genocide, though it passed no legislation to officially recognize it. Armenia has sought international recognition of the systemic killings, which left an estimated 1.5 million people dead, as a genocide. Israel, one of Turkey's key trading partners, has long grappled with the issue and been hesitant to label the atrocities in the early 20th century as a genocide. In 2001, then Foreign Minister Shimon Peres categorically denied what he described as Armenian claims. Turkey, on the other hand, has routinely rejected allegations that the mass killings and forced deportations of hundreds of thousands of Armenians amounted to genocide. A UN review has acknowledged Ankara's claims that more Turks were killed in the years leading up to and during the war, leading to a lack of consensus acknowledging the killings as genocide at the UN level.
The German government has approved a bill proposing a new law aimed at promoting voluntary military recruitment. It said the aim is to increase the personnel strength of the Bundeswehr in response to new threats. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius said he wants to increase the number of temporary and professional soldiers to at least 260,000 by 2035 and to 460,000 including reservists.
Die Bundeswehr muss aufwachsen, die internationale Sicherheitslage, vor allem das aggressive Auftreten Russlands, erfordert dies. Wir brauchen nicht nur eine gut ausgerüstete Truppe, da sind wir in vollem Lauf. Dafür sorgen wir seit 2,5 Jahren und hören nicht auf. Wir brauchen aber eben auch eine personell stark aufgestellte Bundeswehr. Erst dann ist Abschreckung als Ganzes auch wirklich glaubhaft gegenüber Russland.
From 2026, all young men and women will receive a questionnaire on willingness to perform military service. Answering it will be mandatory for men and voluntary for women. The German government stressed that enlistment would initially be voluntary. However, the bill would also allow the Bundestag to reintroduce compulsory military service with a simple amendment if not enough recruits enlist voluntarily.
Heavy rain caused flooding and landslides in parts of Southeast Asia on Wednesday, resulting in at least 8 deaths. Flooding occurred in several central and northern regions of Vietnam, killing 7 people and injuring at least 34. And in Thailand, several people were injured from flash flooding and landslides in the north of the country. 1 person died from a landslide in the northern city of Chiang Mai. The rain is an aftermath of tropical storm Kajiki, which made landfall in Vietnam on Monday. The storm then weakened to a tropical depression on Tuesday when it moved over Laos. Scientists have warned that warmed seas as a result of climate change would cause cyclones in the region to form closer to land, become faster, and last longer.
Guinness World Records is celebrating its 70th anniversary to mark the publication of their first volume in 1955. To celebrate, the organisation has unveiled 70 unclaimed records, such as the most whoopee cushions sat on in 1 minute. Other titles up for grabs are the most kisses in 30 seconds by a pair and the most anchovies eaten in 1 minute.
70 years of Guinness World Records, an amazing achievement, of course. And actually, I was here when we celebrated the 50th anniversary, because I've been in the company for 21 years. I think the biggest change that we've seen in the last few years has been that record breaking has become more democratic. Now there's a record for everyone, everywhere. In fact, our tagline this year is be part of it. We have inspired generations of people to break records themselves. And this year in particular, we have published a list of unbroken records. So these are records that we've been creating over the last few years, but nobody claimed them. So they're up for grabs.
For those feeling more adventurous, one record up for grabs is for the person able to ascend the height of Everest by bicycle the fastest. The Guinness World Records book was born in the 1950s in Ireland out of inspiration on settling pub arguments. Since then, the franchise has sold more than 155 million books worldwide.
Constantly exercising, I was constantly thinking about food, and I didn't really think that that was a problem. So I started to put my self-worth in numbers on a scale. I started to value myself on how little I'd eaten, how much I'd exercised, how long I'd gone without eating.
barrier that men face when it comes to reaching out, being seen as weak or vulnerable, which then hinders their ability to seek support.
People with mental health issues, everybody suffers stigma for having a mental health condition, but this stigma is double among men with eating disorders.
They're much more likely to develop bulimia and to vomit. They'll describe more isolation. They'll often undertake a lot more exercise, and they'll often feel a lot more paranoid. And all of this adds up to a sense of emasculation. Men describe that they no longer feel like they're male. So there's a huge amount of psychiatric as well as physical comorbidity that contributes toward this excessive mortality. There aren't any specific for men, and we do need them because there are certain groups of men that are at particularly high risk. So males who are non-binary, trans people are particularly high risk, and in America and elsewhere, black males are more likely to be at risk than white males.
Once you get to a level where you kind of feel that you can start to realise that there is a problem, then obviously talking to a healthcare professional is the gold standard, because they are there, they are trained in this, they are the ones that need to know. And I think it's really important to always kind of say, you are absolutely not alone.